Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to get started here. Welcome to today's Informative Friday session. This is the April 2024 CU overview for supply chain. Our presenters today are Stephen Kleekamp and Yusuf Guvenc.
Close enough.
Sorry about that, Yusuf. I know
That's all right.
Quick reminder before we get started, please use the chat feature to ask any questions throughout the presentation and we'll be sure to address them. A copy of the presentation and a link to the recording will be sent to all registrants. If you're not registered and would like a copy, please send me an email and I will include you on the distribution. We are recording this session. And as I start admitting people, I'm going to turn this over to Yusuf and Stephen to get started.
Yeah, hi everyone. This is Steve Kleekamp, and I'll be with Yusuf. We'll be going through our April 2024 CU overview for supply chain management. I do need to read a disclaimer to start. The information provided in this presentation is related to implementing and upgrading to Infor version 11 Cloud Suite. The material and information contained within this presentation is for general information purposes only. Laura, can you mute those folks?
Yes, you. I'm muting them right now. Thank
you. Yes, sure. The material
Steve, you're muted now too.
Thank you, Tawny.
Thanks. I think you can hear me now, correct?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Oh, from the top. The disclaimer: information provided in this presentation is related to implementing and upgrading to Infor version 11 Cloud Suite. The material and information contained within the presentation is for general information purposes only. You should not solely rely on this material and information contained therein as a basis for making business, legal, procedural, or system-related decisions. Nordic makes no representations or warranties of any kind, expressed or implied, about the accuracy, reliability, suitability, or availability with respect to the information presented for any purpose. Any reliance you place on such materials without consultation is therefore strictly at your own risk, and it is highly recommended that you contact a Nordic ERP services to make sure the solutions are tailored specifically to your needs. Okay, thank you for your patience there. My name is Steve Kleekamp, and I'm a Nordic ERP Principal Supply Chain Consultant, as you can read. I've been doing Lawson and Infor implementations for about 25 years. I started my first dozen or so with Lawson, which later became Infor, and I've been doing supply chain the whole time. My background before that was in healthcare supply chain as well. And I'll be leading off the presentation, and then Yusuf is going to come in and do a section, and then I'm going to come back in and do a section after that. But I wanted Yusuf to go ahead and jump in and have him do a quick introduction for himself as well.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. And similar to Stephen, I've been working with the Lawson and Infor ERP system for the last 25 years as a supply chain consultant. I have been with Nordic Consulting firm for 3 years now, and I'm also certified in FSM. So as Stephen indicated, we're going to take you through some of the new features in Infor FSM. Thank you.
Thanks, Yusuf. So here's today's agenda, and what this is made up of are just a few of the enhancements that Yusuf and I compiled that we thought would be of most interest to this group. You know, we don't know you all. We don't necessarily know what other types of industries are going to be involved or on the phone. But we culled through, as you'll see in a moment, hundreds of enhancements and issues, but really we're primarily focusing on enhancements, and pulled out the ones that we thought would be of most interest, as I've said. We were working from the upgrade or the release report, which we pulled from Infor's concierge site. Within that site, there's something called a release center. And I've included the URL here, as you can see. Just for the financial and supply management only, which is, you know, just related to the core applications, there we saw a total of 568 enhancements and issues, and then I've broken out how many enhancements there were. There were 261 enhancements altogether, including all suites, all functions, features. Of those, 242 were SCM enhancements and issues, and then we came down to 67 SCM enhancements, just strictly for supply chain. Along with FSM, though, there is another report just for MSCM, mobile supply chain management, enhancements and issues. And in that, there were something like about 200 total, 47 were enhancements, and then like 159 or so were issues. So there's a lot of information out there that we perused through, and we left a lot of them in there. So I do recommend that, you know, if you haven't already and you do get a chance, go out and look through those things. I'll say further that, you know, we were focusing on supply chain management, but there were other, there was other functionality listed on these, on this report, on these reports, that is, that dealt with things like matching or assets or projects, that, you know, may also impact supply chain in some way. So there's a lot of information out there. I really highly encourage you to go out and check that out. Be aware of things that are available. And with that, let me just walk you through a little bit of, you know, where we can access this. As I said, there's the URL for Infor Concierge, if you have access to it. And that will take you to, you know, the Concierge website. And this information is found under the Release Center. And once you're in the Release Center, there's a lot of good information out here. There, you'll see presentations from Infor. Some of them you've probably already seen, but you can see them here on PDF, or you can see them as a web presentation. But the two files that I was just referring to, or reports, are the release report for financial and supply management and for MSCM. So just to give you an idea what those look like and some of the features and functionality on that report. I know this is kind of small, but I've bullet pointed those headers that are highlighted at the top. So you can filter any of these by, you know, the type, the component. You know, it's just as an example, inventory, purchasing, requisitions. There are a great number of them. Contracts themselves probably have almost a dozen subgroupings within it. Issue type, enhancements and issues. And then in the summary and description, you can get a pretty good idea of what these enhancements or issues are doing or resolving. And then I also found that the testing notes were very interesting, not only just to help you, like, you know, review and test this functionality for yourself on your own, but also sometimes it gives you a little more explanation of what exactly these enhancements do. Okay. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Yusuf, and he is going to start taking you through some of the actual enhancements.
Okay. Hi again, everyone. So first thing I want to talk about is this Reimagined Workspaces. So what are they? They are the new and delivered and pre-configured workspaces or dashboards, which are now available in the Workspace catalog. And these workspaces can be made to automatically display as soon as home pages for as soon as you log in. Role-played workspaces. So each role, such as buyers, purchasing managers, accounts payable managers, they can have their own workspace, which is already pre-configured with the components that you would need to perform your daily tasks. In addition to that, you can also customize these workspaces for your own purposes. So next slide, please. So here's a pre-configured workspace that comes with, sorry, these are the listing of the workspaces as role-based. As you can see, the accounts payable manager, buyer, contract manager, and there's a whole slew of other roles if you were to scroll down. Next, please. And here, within the widget catalog, you can, again, similar to the selection of the workspaces, you can add more of these widgets to your workplace. So this is where the customization comes in that you can do yourself. As an example, I got here a widget that will show me all the expiring or the expired contracts, delayed items for inventory, purchasing managers, frequently accessed screens. So there's a link, sorry, a list of links that you can just access automatically through the links instead of going through the navigation panel. Next, please. So ultimately, this is what your workspace would look like with the pre-configured boxes as well as your customized additions of the widgets. Okay, next, please. Requisition self-service is going to have a big change, and the most important change is the programming language will be called the landmark programming language, and this will allow RSS to remain within the FSM and not be on a different tab. And these can be, RSS can now be configured and personalized using the configuration console. And the common interfaces can also be now leveraged with the RSS. And this will only be available for the multi-tenant customers. Single tenants will use the current version, will continue to keep the using the current version. Okay, next, please. The homepage for RSS has also changed considerably. It has much better information, more useful information, in my opinion, such as start requisitions section. We'll have the continue shopping, start a new requisition, copy a requisition, and search in catalog, shopping lists, and punch out vendors. In addition to that, you will see your unreleased requisitions. You'll receive your unreceived requisitions as well, and your recently requested items, including special and service items. Okay, next, please. Oh, yes. So this will be what your new RSS homepage will look like. And these are the boxes that I've just referenced. Next slide, please. Excuse me. All right, so this is brand new. Backorder tracking process for vendor items, and also this will also include special items that are on contracts. All right, so what happens when we can't track the back orders? When currently we can't, but with this new addition, we're able to. So what happens when you can't? So the FSM did not have the ability to track the vendor item back orders at any level. So as a result, the users don't know when the back orders will be shipped, and the delays will create lower quality of service in various sectors. When you can't track back orders, it limits the visibility into supply status. And ultimately, this leads to stockouts and over ordering and added costs and waste of inventory. And staff spends a lot of time finding other sources for their missing items that are on back order. Next, please. So we now offer the ability to tag a PO line item as back ordered. So there are three ways of the system now that can tag the PO lines as back ordered using the manual acknowledgement or using the IDI 855 acknowledgement, and also through the supplier portal acknowledgement. Next is the ability to assign a back order to items when no open back order lines exist. So what does that mean? If there are no open back orders, why am I assigning a back order to an item? There's a new form that's called the vendor back order details, which allows you to assign a back order to items, meaning that when the vendor tells you that a certain product is currently on back order and gives you the estimated available date, you can actually manually create a back order record for that vendor item, or in a case where the item is special and it needs to be on a contract, so that when a user enters a requisition for a PO for that item or a PO, system will display a message. Next slide, please. It'll display a message for that line, and the user will be able to see that message. So this is the actual message, as you see on the screenshot. I just made it bigger in red. And the benefit of this is gives the opportunity to the user whether or not to keep that entry, or they can just delete that entry. Okay, next, please. Yes. I'm sorry, can you go back one, please? Okay, I thought I missed something. All right, next, please. So we also have what's called the transaction line alerts, right? So these alerts are on RSS lines, requisition lines, and PO lines, right? So through these acknowledgements or manual acknowledgements, users, when they look up their their requisition lines in RSS or in requisition portal, and also on PO lines, they will see an updated status saying that the item has been back ordered, and it will provide an estimated time for that. And finally, the new the form that I mentioned, which is called the vendor back order details form. Okay, this is good. So this screen here, this is new, and this will allow you to the top two tabs, which are the back order vendor item and back order special item. This is where you would manually do an acknowledgement, or not acknowledgement, but create a back order for an item that's not on a PO. So when the users, like I mentioned, when the users pick those items on their requisitions and purchase orders, they will get a message saying that it's out of stock and it's on back order. So this form here also allows you to see all the back ordered items. This is the list of all the back orders for your organization. In addition, you can also generate a report from this screen.
Yusuf, before we go on to that next item, I wanted to just relate something that we were talking about with regard to this back order page, and that was, as Yusuf said earlier, you can put back orders in here even though you don't have an actual PO or item back ordered. And we were struggling a little bit to try to figure out, well, why would you do that? And what we kind of came up with was a couple of scenarios. One, maybe it was on back order last week, maybe they got canceled off the PO, but we can go ahead and still put it out here as a back order so that if we know it's going to remain on back order for a period of time, so that our users, when they put the requisitions in, they get that notification or that flag. And then also, maybe in another scenario, a vendor might tell you, hey, this item that's critical to your organization is going to be going on back order for a period of time. So you can put those on this list without actually having a back order open at that particular time. Sorry, Yusuf, go ahead.
Oh, no, not at all. Thank you, Stephen. Mm-hmm. Okay, next slide, please. And this one is the two-step receiving and put away, right? So this added the ability to delay updating the available stock on hand quantity after receiving the PO until the product is physically put away. So what this means basically is that products are received at a staging area and then transferred to your perpetual inventory locations and warehouses. This process works best if in the large warehouses where you have various storage locations, such as the locked or secured areas, freezers, and refrigerators. Products can be stored according to where they are going to be stored. Sorry, they can be sorted according to where they're going to be stored. Products are not available for further processing until they are transferred into stock. So at this point, the stock is not in your inventory yet. So next, please. So the first step of the two-step process is receiving the PO in a regular way. So the first step when you do that, remember today we do a release the receiver. This does not create any documents, as we know, but release and deliver. This releases the receiver, creates a PO put away ticket with the back order information. For the items that were not received on PO, will have the status of released pending two-step receiving. So that'll be the new status on the PO line. These will not automatically print to a printer. You need to navigate to My Print Files and print those documents out manually unless you're using the mobile supply chain management. The other method is the release and deliver no back orders. As we know, that one is available. Again, this releases the receiver, creates the PO put away report, and it also prints the back order information for the items that were not received on the PO. Now, these actions will not automatically print to a printer again. You need to go to your print files and print those documents out manually. Now, the second step, the final step, is after using the put away tickets to physically move your items from the loading dock to the desired bin in your warehouse or the location, you will need to perform the second step in the two-step receiving, and this will update your stock on hand balance. And that step, as we know, is the release action. Okay, so it's a two-step process. Is first you stage the items, and then you receive it into the system, but it doesn't update the stock on hand yet until the print tickets are printed and actually physically delivered or put away in your warehouse. And then you do the second step, which is called the final release. Okay, and thank you for listening to me. I will now turn it back to Stephen.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you, Yusuf. Okay, the next item that we were reviewed was company level substitutions. So in the past, when you entered an associated item and you put in a company, you were forced to put in a location along with the company, and everything was kind of driven by the location. So now we have the ability to set up the associated item just as for company-wide substitution. In addition to that, the system now also takes into account any of your warehouse location rules. So if you're not familiar with the warehouse location rules, those basically give you a sequence, the priority from which you would pull items that are, in stock somewhere in your organization. So you may have two warehouse locations, and you generally pull from one to stock the other. Whatever your scenario is, what you do is with this warehouse location rule is you set up a sequence prioritizing where you want to pull this stock from. So, and that same logic then can be applied to these company level substitutions, where if the system finds that you do have that you are using a warehouse location rule, that it will go through that sequence and flag which ones should be, which items that is will be substituted for. So if you had an item that was in one location and you did a substitution, and it was a substitution for it, but that one of the locations that you may still have stock on for that item was a priority, it would first go ahead and pull that item, that substitute item, from the location that still had stock and fulfill that order. Or the opposite is true as well. It would skip the first location if the item was available, but your priority was to pull it from the second location. Then it would go to that second location, and you would get the substitute item. And these warehouse locations rules are assigned at your requesting locations. Okay, and just to give you an idea what that looks like, on the requisition line, and this can actually apply to purchase orders and to requisitions. So as an example, if if a order is placed for an item that you flagged for substitution on a requisition, you get the message in the header of that requisition, and it flags the, which item or items was flagged and replaced. As you can see in the message there, highlighted in yellow, that's a system highlight. That's not my highlight. And then if I go to the next option, the same is true if you manually created a purchase order, and this item was flagged as being a substitute item. The buyer would receive that same flag, that same notification as we would on a requisition. Okay. The next new feature is the EDI data download. So in the past, for these tables, your work record, your data exchange, your work records, transaction history, and archive records, if you were doing some troubleshooting, and for the most part, a lot of this is done during conversions or during implementations. But when we find that we're having an issue, we do some troubleshooting. If I wanted to pull any of one of these data from any one of these tables, I had to go find the record. I could open it and I could see it, but if I wanted to copy something, to maybe send it to someone or to do more evaluation in another system, another software, I would have to cut and paste big sections of this data, this is a lot of data that we're looking at in each one of these cases. And even then, it was difficult to, copy all the data you needed if you had to page down and page down. Sometimes you're not able to do that when you're doing a cut and paste, so you'd have to take it out in sections, etc. But now there's a button, a download button next to each one of these files that allows you to download the whole file and then, analyze it or send it to someone as you choose. And that page looks like this. This is the data exchange file. This is your in and out EDI transactions. It's got things like, it shows your account numbers and the handshakes and all that kind of thing. And you can see the little download button each one of those. So you can just download that and send it off to someone, or open it up in another program to review it. Okay. The next item I want to talk about is for special handling codes, and that is having the special handling codes would be something like hazardous waste, or maybe refrigerate upon receiving, those kind of things. Any items that require some sort of special handling. And with these codes, then, item by item, you're able to go in and assign the instructions for that code. And it may be unique to an item. Maybe if they have some hazardous material, I don't know, like maybe something that's radioactive versus something that's poisonous, you would have different handling instructions based on the type of item it is. So, and as you can see, and I think this is the big change. These handling codes have been out there at least for one release, I believe, but now we're able to assign them to all item types. So if it's an item master type item, an inventory or a non-stock item in Infor, then at the item master, there's an area where you can assign the handling code, and then you put the individual instructions for that item on the item master. If it's a special item, then you're assigning that handling code and the special instructions at the contract line level. Okay. Another new feature, and this one, I left it in. I wasn't 100% sure that this is brand new, but if you're not aware of it, because I could swear that I've seen this before, but it was listed as a new enhancement. You do have the ability now to generate a replenishment order, basically a purchase order to your vendor, from using the handheld device. So now you can do both, right? You can use your normal process of running the vendor reorder advice under inventory control order entry, where you're using your stock on hand and your available quantity and your mins and maxes to determine when something should be reordered. But you can also just go to the shelf with your handheld device. There's a new menu option on the handheld that allows you to, as it says, replenish inventory. And you can open that up, click the item, and then you can just put in the quantity that you want to order to replenish. So we do recommend that you continue to use your normal reorder functionality with the vendor advice reports, as you probably already do, because they do offer some valuable information. For instance, when it's a way outside of doing cycle counts and everything, this is probably the best way to determine whether or not you have any issues with your stock on hand. You're going to have any stock outs, spikes and surges and that kind of thing. So we're going to recommend that you continue to use your normal replenishment process. But for those situations where you've already submitted your order today and you just want to get an order in quick because you know that you're going to have a stock out if you don't, now you can pull up your handheld device, go into MPC, click the replenish inventory, select the item, put in the quantity, hit send. And of course, you can order multiple items, scan all the items that you want, hit the send button. Now you're able to generate a purchase order to replenish that way. Some new functionality, preference cards. So in the procurement group, you're able to enable procurement cards, and it actually created these new business classes. So we have preference cards, we have procedures and providers, and then as you see here, we have also a preference card error business class. Now, we're probably going to recommend that, if you use this, and this isn't true for everyone, of course, but if you want to bring this information in, it's going to be a lot more useful, a lot more valuable if you're able to use the clinical bridge interfaces to interface this information in from your EHR system. You wouldn't want to have necessarily doing double entry on this in some way, but this will give you more information with regard to upcoming surgical cases to allow you to do some forecasting. And it's supporting that through, listing the demands that are generated through preference cards. Yeah, so, and the preference card error piece, whatever if you are putting in manual information for, say, building a preference card, and you can put in pretty much anything you want, but the system, if it recognizes that item, and I should also say, these items do have to be item master records. So these items do have to be built in the item master. But if you input something, even manually, and the system will then evaluate that and report an error in that preference card error. But that's going to be more and most valuable if you're doing this interface like through the clinical bridge, where data is brought in directly from a third-party system, Epic, for example. When bring that item information in, then the system validates to make sure that item information is valid in Infor. You'll get those reports that way as well. Okay. Next new feature, for MNR, matched not received, we have some warnings and controls. So in the matching process, if that system cannot match up the quantities, sometimes this is related to having multiple items of the same item on multiple lines, maybe even alternate units of measure. But when AP is trying to match these invoices, if the system, struggles with matching it, and we have to pull it up manually to do a manual match on it, you'll be in the match recon queue. So there's a discrepancy. Typically, they're being invoiced for more than we ordered. This is one of the most typical scenarios. We have the ability to force a match, meaning, yes, I realize that they're invoicing us for 2 more than I ordered, but I need this invoice paid. I need it paid right away. So I'm going to just go ahead and do that match. That creates something called an MNR, meaning match not received. So we received items. We've paid for an item that we hadn't received. And most of our financial teams don't really care to see transactions in the MNR account. So we now have a way to prevent that. And it can be set up a couple different ways. Primarily, you can get a warning indicating that this is going to happen. Or you can set it up so that it will force you to do a chargeback against that particular line when you do the match and you force that match. It'll allow you to force it, but it'll automatically create a chargeback, which a chargeback is basically like a credit memo that you take at the same time. It shows up on the remittance and everything else, flagging it as something that you had not actually received, but you did pay for. So again, we have a warning. You have a couple of options. You get a warning about the fact that you're creating an MNR, or it'll force you to do a chargeback to allow it to go through. Okay. Another new feature, which I like a lot, is to get an email notification when you forward a buyer's message, or a cost message. And it says, in the documentation, it's the authority code. The authority code and the buyer code are basically the same in the matching scenario, in the messaging scenario. Buyers represent actual buyers typically. And of course, they always get our cost messages, right? But sometimes if there's a discrepancy, or maybe there's a credit memo, you might have a process in place where you forward that message maybe to an authority code that's been set up to hold, for instance, credit memo transactions, or invoices rather, that you're holding for a credit memo. And then when the credit memo comes in, they're available for someone to go out and pick that up and process it. Or another scenario where this will come into play is, we call them buyers, but sometimes you have people who are doing sourcing or contract management, and there's a cost message, and you want to forward it to those people. Now, they're not used to seeing a lot of buyers' messages, and without that notification, they don't necessarily know day to day to go out and look at the list view for cost messages under their authority code or under their buyer code. So those could go and sit out there, unattended for some period of time. So now we have a way where it's automated. Actually, if you do forward a message to another buyer or authority code, it generates an email notification alerting them that they need to go out and look at that list view under their cost messages and address those issues. Okay, and then lastly, and we didn't delve into these other enhancements. We actually went in and tested and make sure we could see how they were functioning and understood them if they were new. But in this case, there were a few that we weren't able to get to, but I thought were very interesting, and I just wanted to point out, if you're using Infor.Go, which is the application where you can access FSM via your mobile device, and they're listed under mobile app. They don't actually call it out as Infor.Go, but I was able to confirm that these are Infor.Go applications that we're referring to here. And they've added some scanning ability for if you, for instance, were using your handheld device, your telephone, to go and enter cycle counts or something like that. You can now scan in the item field a barcode, and it'll pop up on through your phone on that application within FSM, or in this case, Infor.Go. And it's similar availability for cycle counting. You can do an item search in the cycle counting, and also if you're doing requisitions from your hand, from your phone, you could go into this that widget we call recent items that Yusuf was describing earlier. Now it's there today. It's really basically kind of the same widget, but now when you go to recent items, you can scan a barcode there as well, or a QR code, and you can pop that item onto your requisition as well. So I thought those are pretty interesting. I don't know how many of you are actually using Infor.Go. I haven't had tons of experience with it, except occasionally when the clients want to start using it, and then we demo it for them. But I haven't, I don't use it as much as maybe certain of our clients do, and I don't know if you have either. But I just thought those were interesting, and I wanted to share those with you. Okay, so now we've reached the point in the presentation where we're ready to take your questions. So feel free to, well, I'll say, I know that we instructed you to put the questions into the chat. So Laura, do we have any questions yet?
We do not have any questions yet.
Oh, okay. Should we go ahead and open it up to the floor and see if anyone does have any questions? Can we unmute?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Feel free to unmute if you have any questions. Yes.
And I will say that there were some questions that were sent in to us by some of the attendees ahead of time. And one of those questions was not related to anything we talked about here today, but it was handling lot and lot numbers and expirations. They wanted to be able to track expiration dates. And in FSM, we do that through lot tracking. So there's some nice functionality there, with the caveat that, if you are doing lot transactions, there's some data entry involved. You have to put in your lots, and then beyond that, if you want to track expiration dates, you have to include that as well. And so that includes also, when you issue something out, you'll have to, if you receive it in, you do the data entry to get the lots and the expiration dates. And then when you issue those products out of inventory, you're again prompted to specify the lot number.
Hey, Steve, this is Cynthia.
Hey, Cynthia.
I have a quick question. The warehouse location rules, right? Can you only enter them on requesting locations? Is that it?
That's a good question. I believe so, yes.
Okay, only because one of my clients is asking about it being on a per location, and I didn't think they could be added to a per location, but I just wanted to check. I can look myself too, but I would just.
Well, yes. Yeah, it's because a par location also has a requesting location. You would
So I
put
can
it
add it there.
Yeah,
Okay.
you put it on the requesting location.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Ryan, do you have a question? Your hand is up?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I do. Is it okay if I share my screen for a moment for this question?
Absolutely. See if you can do it. See if I have to stop sharing first.
It doesn't look like it. So my question involves the vendor backorder information, and we're trying to get a little more clarification on this. Staff have seen it and it looks nice. I just have an example here pulled up so we can discuss it. One of these obviously is closed so far. If I, for example, though, go to this closed
Ryan,
PO line.
you're not sharing, I don't believe.
Oh,
or am I?
I can see his screen.
Okay, that's because I'm presenting. Okay, pardon me, my fault. Go ahead.
Can you see it now?
Yep.
Okay, so if I go to this closed PO line, this, for example, is showing ETA as May 8th. Well, on this particular one, I can see my early delivery date was 5/10. The late delivery date was 5/20, which this gets populated, correct me if I'm wrong, from the 8:55. This happens to be an EDI one. We had the acknowledgement. I can see the acknowledgement message come in and it populates this date. But because there are two records in this vendor backorder details, it's going back to like this earliest one, which is valid still out there. This has not been received yet or closed, showing May 8th. And when I put in a ticket to Infor, still pending more information, the first customer service level told me that yes, this is working as designed, where that date is based on the early delivery date. But why is it based on the early delivery date if this is the date that is given on the acknowledgement as the expected date? Are we supposed to be updating all of our early delivery dates based off of a late delivery date manually?
So I don't believe so. I agree with you. I think, opening the case, the incident was the way to go. I would push back more on that, I believe. Yeah, I don't think that's correct at all. And by the way,
I have a small question about this actually. What are the delivery dates on your PO header level?
This one, probably nothing on the header level, generally, or it would have defaulted to maybe the first line. But if I thinking correctly, on basic POs, when it goes through the job, yeah, there's nothing on the header level by default. It's just the lines will have this early delivery date. And sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry. I know I'm interrupting, but can you go back to the two back order records that you have?
Sure.
They're for different purchase orders.
Correct.
So in my mind, that 5.8 should only apply to that particular record.
Well, and that's what I'm finding. And I filtered, we have a lot more records in here. I just filtered for this item as an example, because yes, even though, let's say this wasn't closed, because that's kind of what I would expect. Oddly, for some reason, we received this one, even though it was a later PO than this original one. But any future PO seems to default to whatever the earliest date would be from this table, which, as far as I can tell, is feeding from the early delivery date. But that doesn't make sense to me unless we are supposed to be. I don't know other people on this call. Is that standard procedure where you're going and manually changing all of your early delivery dates based on a late delivery date? And then my mind goes, well, then you're unreleasing the PO again. It requires another save. You need to make sure your header is, like a do not print so you can release it. You've made a revision,
Right.
to that PO. So while this sounds great to me, have you actually used it in real life processes? Is this working as it's supposed to? I'm not going to say as designed. Is this working as it's supposed to? Because my common sense isn't seeing it.
So we had similar questions about this in our organization, and the weird thing is I think there's a field in the business class that's not shown on display called default delivery date, and I think it bases off of the PO line. Or PO line business class, and I think it bases off of an early, like a derived early delivery date. I could be wrong, but I do think maybe to gain a little bit more information on that, see if that's the case, if maybe there is a default delivery date that is prior to May 8th on that. And again, I could be totally wrong here.
Sure. They all coincidentally, while this is one example, everyone I've looked at is always for a specific item, whichever PO is out there that exists, I think still open with a early delivery date. That's what this is defaulting to. And Infor initially told me that's working as designed. And yeah. I don't understand how it could be.
I think we have to push back on that, and Yusuf and I will take away that we'll do some testing on this as well.
Okay.
we may have to do an enhancement request. So I wonder if can you share with us your incident number?
Yeah. In fact, let me. I'll find the number here. I can stop sharing. So if someone else has another question,
but I'll just continue
on.
on to that. I mean and just the idea that because they're 855s, we're talking about tens of thousands of records, maybe per day for some of you. There's no way that we're going to be able to do that manually. So I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think that the answer is they're final for them. I think we need to push back a little bit on that one.
Sure. I'll put
Hey, Ryan.
Yep.
Hi, this is Yusuf. On that screen, does your estimated delivery date always the same as your early delivery date? Is that what you've been seeing?
Correct. Yes, it is always the early delivery date.
Yeah, I have a suspicion that it's like a word game. It's ETA, so they're going off of that, I think. And they're not committing to that date. They're just saying estimated date. I think that's what they'll push back with. But no, I mean I'm totally with you on that. Like Steven said, we should follow this up.
But I like this the thought of maybe it's pulling some other date. So maybe you personalize that list view so that you can look at some of the other dates and see if we can troubleshoot it that way. That's one of the things that I would be looking at.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It looks like Melissa was just saying, she put in the chat, you have also a ticket open.
I do, and I get the impression from what I got back on it that it is still being worked on by Infor because there's several corrections that they're doing, and it's not available yet in RSS because there's a whole nother piece to it where the requesters can see the back order message, and right now that's not working or not available yet. So I have this as well that I got. And I'll paste this in the chat. So this was another comment in the same ticket around the same back order alerting that it's just not ready yet. So I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it seems to me like they're still kind of working out some issues on that.
Oh, good. I like that answer better.
Yeah.
Our organization noticed that, when there was a back order message, it would go and apply it to closed POs too, and all kinds of crazy kind of weird things that wouldn't really be necessarily desired. So
exactly.
Yeah. That's what but I haven't dug into that information. It's just was posted on my ticket today. So if it's useful.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
That's helpful. Thank you, Melissa.
These are just the things they talk about this. Here's a new feature and you guys are even advertising it. And then I feel like it didn't take us anything to see that there was a problem with this, at least for operational users. So I guess I'm just confused as to why then it got pushed out and it's being announced this way.
I'll tell you that you are ahead of us as far as implementing this because our clients, so this is new, just came out in April, and we're in an implementation mode, so we're just now starting to look at it. We haven't even been able to test this at our existing clients yet because you guys have a transaction, you can turn it on today. We have to ramp up to it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate everyone's input.
It was great. That was a great line of questions. That was fantastic for everyone.
Even I think we have one more
I
question.
have
Spencer?
one more question. Yeah. This one should be a little bit quicker. The meeting today referenced MSCM and Landmark. It doesn't look like that was actually covered. Is there going to be a different Informative Friday where that is covered? Because our organization is looking at maybe joining early adopter on that, and I was hoping to get maybe a preview of that.
Yeah, we didn't. I thought we might have touched on it. I guess we didn't, but yeah, that's not available yet. For one thing, I guess that's why we stayed away from it. Now that I think about it, but yeah, I mean, we would be, yeah, I would look forward to seeing something like that. I know we can take it back to the Nordic team and indicate that it's been requested.
Okay,
And,
that
and
was
we'll
it. I was
deliver
just-
one as soon as we can, I think, yeah.
Yeah,
I guess
I'm
now
just
I'm probably
excited
gonna be on
about
the
it.
hook for it. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna hold you to that, Steve.
yeah. let's
Actually,
do
no,
it.
I'm gonna hold Yusuf to it. Cause I don't know, I like harassing that guy a little
You
bit.
know him. Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw a
Hey,
Yugo the other
Spencer.
day. What?
Actually, that particular component is coming out in October.
Right. We wanted to get on early adopter for it because, we're selfish and we want to try and steer a little bit of the development of it to suit us specifically.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
I get it.
Yeah.
You remember how special we are, Yusuf.
Don't. You should
had
not
to
have
go.
given him that. You
I
should not
just-
have given him that firepower.
I just wanted to say it was nice to hear your voice, Yusuf.
Thank you, likewise.
Okay, well,
All
I
right,
think
we
that's
have-
all the questions for now. If anyone does have any questions down the road, please keep in mind, we do have a coffee with consultants offering. It allows you 30 minutes of complimentary time with one of our consultants to get a pain point solved or answer anything that you might have. You can either go to our website or you can email me and I will set that up for you. My email is in the chat.
You want me to
And
share again to wrap that up?
I'll just go through it real quick because I know people are dropping right now. We're past the hour. We do have one more Informative Friday scheduled for May 31st. That is a guide through the world of payables, information, multiple ways to search payables related data in FSM. So I hope that everyone can join us then. And that's it. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you, you too.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Great
everyone.
session. Thank you.